Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan Battle video. In this video we're going to be taking on the Battle-Hardened Formidable Foes and taking on the movie edition part 3. So this is the final movie edition, at least for now. I think it encompasses legendary Super Saiyan Broly from the Resurrection movie, Bio Broly from the Bio Broly movie, Janemba, and also Harudagon. So, pretty simple as always with these events, super easy, super chill, no real problems or anything to worry about. Jokes aside, yeah, this is going to be another tough one. All of these fights, as everyone should know by now, start out incredibly hard. Pretty much, I would say this is probably, in terms of no iteming, I would say this is close to probably the hardest content in the game right now. In terms of if you want to run the event with no items, just raw team power, there are very few units, characters that can handle a lot of these stages right off the bat. There are very few teams that can handle the damage in general. So, yeah, that aside, obviously, yeah, still pretty tough. So in terms of this stage and this event and everything, we have 4 fights. So the first one is Super Saiyan Broly, legendary Super Saiyan Broly. Second one's Bio Broly, giant Bio Broly. Third one is Janemba and Super Janemba, and last one's Harudagon perfect form. Each fight has 2 phases. Super Saiyan Broly, the first one, 120 million health. Second phase, 120 million health. Damage 2.2 on the super, 2.4 on the super for Int Broly. Int Broly will also gain attack of 20% with each tech type attack received, up to 60%. Super Saiyan Broly will get attack of 20% up with each turn passed, and defense with each turn passed. So it's very interesting to have a mechanic that depends on whether one unit is hit by, like a type disadvantage super. But obviously it makes it so that, bringing the Tech Vegito, probably not a good idea. I say probably because chances are you're going to be able to probably take him out before that really becomes an issue, depending on the damage that your Tech LR Vegito does. But of course it can still be something that you need to consider. All in all, definitely difficult. Legendary Super Saiyan Broly hits for about 800k. That 2.4 million super can very quickly ramp up if you hit him with tech attacks. So you're going to want to be careful. For me, obviously, I wanted to really try out a full power team here. You'll see I'm doing a full power team, bringing in the physical Gohan, and because of that, I didn't really have any huge issues with the tech type, because I didn't have a majority of tech type units. So yeah, obviously that's something that may affect certain teams more than others, but I think overall it's going to depend on you. Next we have Bio Broly. Things get very interesting here. So the first phase, Bio Broly, he's strength type, he's got 100 million health, he's got 1 million attack, he's got 2.8 million in terms of super. He nullifies ceiling. He gives all his enemies attack and defense down to 20%, which is pretty annoying. And then you'll also get 40,000 damage per int key sphere that you pick up because of the little bombs. Now the way to kind of deal with this is to have your int type characters pick them up, because although you will take the damage, you will also take the healing from the int type orbs, which helps to mitigate it, like you saw there. But yeah, I mean, it is pretty tough. Obviously you can stun Broly. This helps a lot and is one of the reasons why it's not so scary, because by stunning Broly you basically give yourself free time to set up for the second phase of Broly. And one thing I will say, in a world where we have now bosses with 500 million health, a billion health, 650 million health, it's not so scary to see a boss with 100 mil. In fact, you can actually almost consider them squishy. Generally, a lot of these fights will only take 1 to 2 turns, depending on the level of your team. And because of that, it does make it difficult to incorporate certain units. Like physical Super Saiyan 2 Gohan only hits his stride from like the 5th turn, you're maybe getting that full power of him like right at the end. So it is something to consider. Then you move into Tech Giant by Broly, 120 million health, 2.8 million super, nullification of super attacks and stunning. He reduces damage received and also deals 200,000 damage to the enemy every turn. He won't KO you with this. His damage reduction rate increases each turn as well, so he's becoming progressively tankier. All in all, this guy wasn't too bad. To be honest with you, it wasn't too bad. You can attack him, which is a helpful mechanic. Although he does do, obviously, 200k damage now per turn, which is a lot. I mean, even with 250% HP leads and people getting close to 1 million health, like, it's still a lot. It'll still be like a quarter, 1/5 of your health, which is obviously going to be very, very intense for some people. But the thing is, obviously it's going to cause you some issues, but he's not a step up from the previous by Broly. So you should have your rotation set up. For example, I have my intercept skill from Dbz Dokkan, so you should be able to handle it without a massive issue overall. At least that's what I would say. So then, now you got to turn to Janemba and Super Janemba. This is the 3rd fight, and it's a very interesting one. So Janemba, the Tech Janemba, has 150 million health. He hits for 2.8 million, and he has a normal of 1 million. He has attack of 50% up from the 3rd turn from his entry, so he gets a lot stronger from his 3rd turn. But he has damage reduction rate raised before receiving 7 attacks. So basically, before you hit this guy 7 times, that's really like what's going to happen. Like, before you hit him 7 times, he's just not going to take a lot of damage. Like, that's just the thing. He's just not going to take a lot of damage. He's going to be in a situation where he's, obviously going to be able to soak up all of your damage. So how do you want to counteract this? Well, you're going to want to bring units that do a lot of damage, obviously. The thing with this, to be entirely honest with you, like looking at Janemba, he's more just a meaty sponge. Like I said, he does start out strong. I mean, this whole event starts out strong, but you're used to it by now, and you should have units that can handle the heat. So having someone that's relatively slightly tankier is okay. Although he does get a damage increase from the 3rd turn, it's not to the point where he's, so tanky that it takes you years to get through him. Realistically, a lot of teams are built in additionals. Looking at units like Tech Vegito, looking at units like AGL Gogeta, looking at units like the, pretty much anyone, honestly. It's just, there's a lot of additionals built in, so I just think really there's not a huge concern here, at least from my side. Of course, it can be challenging, and I completely understand people not being able to work their way through it. But once you do, you're greeted with Super Janemba. Now, Super Janemba does 3.6 million supers, lovely, 1.2 million normals, very good, and he also crits with every single attack. So what does that mean? Well, it means guard is no longer useful to you. Damage reduction is going to be your best friend, or evasion, and Janemba will get attack of 10% up with each turn passed. The caveat to this is, obviously, Super Janemba is not nearly as tanky as Tech Janemba, but he hits like a truck. The first time I ran this event, he took me completely by surprise and absolutely incinerated my int LR Broly that I was using, because I had used the active skill and obviously had assumed that he would be able to tank, and this was not the case. So yeah, it's definitely challenging, and it's definitely something that causes players a lot of issues, and that level of damage that he can output is very tremendous. It is incredibly high, and obviously can be very overwhelming. So you're going to have to be mindful of those crits. Those crits are going to cause you issues. Be aware. Don't let yourself be caught out by them. And then we get to the final fight against Dokkan. Hirudegarn and Hirudegarn Perfect Form. Obviously, Hirudegarn base form, AGL, 120 million health, 1 million normal, 2.8 million super. Raises defense on a super, nothing too crazy. Immunity to being stunned, you can seal him. However, he has a 7% chance of evasion, and he lowers your attack and defense with each turn passed. So this is where it becomes a little bit frustrating, because obviously it starts immediate, so your characters and your units are already 7% down on attack and defense right off the bat. So it's not like you get one turn to kind of sink into it. You're immediately starting out, you're quite well diminished. And as people, or most people will know, even with the best teams, even with the best teams that start out really strong, they still need ramp up time. So losing that 7%, then 14% second turn, then 21% by a third turn is something that's quite difficult. Obviously, you can counteract this by making sure you have units that are growing or that gain power at a significant pace. But really, it's something that I think ultimately is going to be challenging to deal with. And then we have Hirudegarn Perfect Form, immune to sealing and stunning. Defense up of 20% with each attack received, and attack up of 10% with each attack received. The goal here is just to blow him up. Basically, to cut a long story short, the goal is to absolutely incinerate him. With my team, because I'm using like a full power team, so I've got really strong active skills. I've got the standby skill for Kamehameha with White Celebration Gohan. I've also got the active skill of Physical Gohan. I've also got really strong intercept skills. I've got Vegeta's active skill. So I've got ways to blow them up, and a lot of the times I saved these for the second phase. So always in all these fights, I saved them for the second phase. Not only does it allow immediate damage, which is always good, but also a lot of the times it helped with a lot of their abilities. For example, being able to do an insane amount of damage right off the bat and kind of clear out like half of Hirudegarn's health helps a lot when you're trying to get rid of a unit as quickly as possible. Same with Janemba, same with anyone. So it was one of those situations where those active skills are really helpful. They are going to play a big role into how you do things. And I found like this full power team honestly handled things pretty well. Beast Gohan, obviously very vital, tanky, intercept skill, crucial. Int Vegeta as well, also very crucial. But then the full power Gohan was a great damage dealer. The Int Gohan as well, also really solid. Strength Kamehameha Gohan, tons of utility. Honestly, it was a very, very good run. Yeah, very good.